6:15 on my, now switching over. First order of business is declaration of a quorum. David, if you would, please.
Joe Plankis,
Here.
John Dart,
Here.
Larry Kemper,
Here.
Brian Tomamichael,
Here.
Carrie Larison.
Here.
Okay, and for the record, Brian Pawlowski is not in this month, so we will miss him. Next order of business is a Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you, everyone. We are going to have a change in the agenda. We will move claims from where it's shown on the agenda to action item number 6 that will follow the Hunden Partners contract. I don't think there's any others that we need to work on. Janelle, correct?
Nope, but before we get moving, if we could recognize Carrie Larison. She is our newest school board appointee of the Redevelopment Commission. Carrie, we're glad to have you here and look forward to spending the year with you.
Also would like to take a moment to recognize Janelle, who was awarded the City of Westfield Employee Award of Distinction this year by the Westfield Chamber. So congratulations on that recognition, Janelle. Thank you for all your hard work, you and your team. Okay, moving on to the next item, we have the approval of the minutes. Is there any comments or changes on the minutes? Okay, hearing none, I'm open for a motion for approval.
Motion to approve.
Okay, motion by Larry, second by Brian. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. David?
Joe Plankis,
Aye.
John Dart,
Aye.
Larry Kemper,
Aye.
Brian Tomamichael.
Aye.
Okay, next item is the approval of the memorandum for the executive session of January 21st, 2025. Any comments on that or changes? If not, I'm open for a motion for approval.
Motion to approve.
Okay, Brian Tomamichael, motion for approval. We have a second?
Second.
Second, Larry Kemper. Okay. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. David?
Joe Plankis,
Aye.
John Dart,
Aye.
Larry Kemper,
Aye.
Brian Tomamichael.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is financial matters, clerk treasurer's reports. I reviewed them, Janelle. I don't know if you have any comments you want to make or commission members.
I don't see them attached here to the agenda, and I know that the clerk treasurer will be joining us hopefully next month to do a presentation. The report wasn't ready at the time that the agenda was published, so I think that's probably why it's not
Yeah,
attached today.
She sent it to an old email address of mine, but my wife forwarded it to me, so I did a chance to look at it, and we can discuss it further next month's meeting.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the next item, which is the executive director's report.
We do have claims before we move on to the report.
Claims we're going to do at the end.
Oh, yeah. My apologies. Yes, my report. All right. Good evening, everyone. Wanted to provide a couple of updates for you here. One brief update on a project that we're going to be reviewing a little bit later in the agenda, Ambrose on Main, and wanted to give you an overall summary of the project. This is a project that I know we've talked about a couple of times previously, an investment by Redevelopment. Project is called Ambrose on Main, located at East Street and State Road 32. And this is an estimated investment of $26.2 million. The base assessed value for the properties that were assembled by the developer are currently around $964,000, which comes in around $236,000 per acre. At full development of this property, the future assessed value is estimated to be about $13 million, coming in at $3.2 million an acre, which is much higher land use, most comparable to what we have at Riverview, and right there at the downtown area at Union and State Road 32. So on par with our highest commercial investments in the city. The annual tax increment that will be anticipated from this project is at about $244,000 a year, and the annual school referendum would bring in almost $36,000 a year, and this is outside of tax increment that would be used to fund a bond. The incentives that we'll be preparing for this developer for approval by the City Council later this spring would be a developer-backed bond using 100% of the TIF. Developer-backed bond means that the city is not using its own credit for that bond. It is going to be issued by the developer at their own risk. And then the city will also be purchasing some right-of-way that was acquired by the developer for the extension of the Penn Street through the development, and the city would be constructing the Penn Street extension. The overall project here is 87 multifamily units. They have a really nice rooftop amenity that you can see right here facing the East Street State Road 32 roundabout. About 13,000 square feet of commercial and retail space, most of it facing State Road 32. Really nice walkable restaurants, patios, covered entries, 245 spaces for parking on site, underground detention, and the developer has also agreed that in the future they would allow the RDC to build a parking garage on top of this surface lot if there's a demand in the downtown. Additionally, they'll be providing about 6,000 square feet of public plaza, patio, or pocket park for the public to enjoy here on the site. In addition, some other updates that we have here for the city. We'll see if I can advance. There we go. Oh,
Hey, Janelle,
there we go.
Janelle,
Yep.
can I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's driving that very attractive assessed value compared to other locations or property in the city?
Sure. It is the density of what's being built on the site. So as you can see, this is a 5-story building being built in a very walkable, very compact environment. So the assessed value per acre is much higher when you're condensing this. So as compared to a 2-story building or a 1-story building built on a much larger site where you have more of a suburban driving car-based development, this just creates a lot more assessed value per acre, which is really what we're looking for in a downtown. This really helps us consolidate our services, whether that's the road miles being built, utilities being built. It also helps with our police and fire. They just don't have as much distance that they have to travel in order to be able to serve the same population size.
Okay. These are all rental units, right? They're not for sale units, right?
That is correct.
Okay. Are these going to be comparable from a rental standpoint to other units that are being built or considered to be built here in the near future?
Yes, I would expect that everything that we're seeing here in the downtown over the next, well, probably not just months, but next few years would all be in that upper quality and the luxury type of apartment. For the type of development that we're looking at, this really high investment, the investment in the walkable communities, the best way for the developers to really make this a successful project for them and for the city is for them to be able to charge competitive rents. Our rents here in Westfield are less than what you would have in surrounding communities. We don't really have much of the luxury downtown living available. And so this is really meeting a market need that we currently are not addressing.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Janelle, can I ask you a question real quick too?
Sure.
So I've been asked a few times the last few weeks, if you didn't provide the incentives from this side, would this project happen?
It would not happen.
Okay. Because we've just been asked that a lot of the recognition of currently pull about $2,300 an acre off of this in taxes, and we'll be pulling $32,000 an acre in taxes. So just if we didn't do the incentives, it wouldn't happen. I just wanted to have that confirmed. Thank
Yeah,
you.
this type of investment, especially in the financial environment that we have right now, would not happen without a partnership. combination of inflation that we've seen over the last few years, as well as construction escalation that has been really out of control, I would say, for near a decade, maybe even more. And now interest rates being quite high, it's just not feasible to build this type of development just with the private sector. Any other questions on this one before I move on? All right, I'm going to give a brief update on Grand Park. I know we talked at length at the February meeting about the Grand Park District Master Plan, but just wanted to give an update on some of the progress that we've made since our last meeting. This is an overall view of the development plan showing the north area north of 186th Street, south area being defined south of 186th Street. We are working through some changes to the economic development area for Grand Junction. This is our EDA that really covers, I don't know what the percentage of the city, but it's the largest economic development area that we have within the city. There were a few parcels that were outside of the limits of what you see here that are included in what's called a riverfront district. The Riverfront District allows for additional alcohol licensing capabilities that can be granted by the city, which are outside of the normal two-way and three-way licenses that are typically offered by the Alcohol and Tobacco Commission. This really provides a great opportunity for economic development to occur in an area. So the Riverfront District has a map that shows all the parcels that are within an economic development area and could be within an economic development area, and also within the district limits of the River District. Sorry, I'm getting a bit tongue-tied here. So we will, in a bit, see an economic development area modification for the Riverfront District that would absorb the commercial parcels that are near Grand Park into that EDA, so that there is opportunity for economic development on those parcels that would give them ability to have one of the alcohol licenses that is controlled by the city within this Riverfront District legislative opportunity. So I think that this is a really great opportunity for building around Grand Park, and then will also give us opportunities within the Grand Park District area itself for some additional economic development. This is just another highlight here of what our overall development plan looks like, with Grand Park Event Center located here at the north of the image, 191st Street here, Grand Park Boulevard coming down here in between what you see as the development area and the existing fields or diamonds. And then we have a potential soccer stadium here at Grand Park Boulevard and 186th Street, and then a potential location of an ice facility down here at the south end of the park. This ice facility could be at this location, could also be at a few other sites within the Grand Park area, and we'll be talking more about that ice facility later on in the meeting today. These are just highlights showing some of the close-ups of the different areas of the development plan. This at the north end being a plaza immediately adjacent to the event center, potentially with a smaller scale football field, mini field, if you will, Champions Way, linear park running through the development. A couple of renderings showing what the development could look like once it's fully developed. View of the soccer stadium area. And then I want to do just a brief highlight. This is something that we, again, had talked about in February. With the Grand Park District Master Plan, we had a parallel study being done by Hunden Partners to look at our opportunities for bringing a hotel to Grand Park. And this study is located specifically for a hotel site adjacent to Grand Park Event Center, looking at two options for what we're calling phase one at a 225 or 275 key hotel. We are in some initial discussions about what that project really could look like, and then also looking at some funding opportunities. Hotels are typically at the scale difficult to finance, expensive, but also very lucrative for the city from a tourism standpoint. And so we'll also be working with Hamilton County Tourism and Hunden to help advise on whether or not we move forward with a hotel here in the near future. Just as a reminder, in the original Hunden study that we had presented in early 2024, this was presented as, I think it was a phase 3. I know I have a couple people from Hunden on the call. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think we originally showed this as a phase 2 or phase 3 hotel. And then with FIFA and Live coming to the table here in Westfield, we've moved that up into phase 1 as a study for the Grand Park area. Next steps, these are the same as what we had presented last month, just bringing this in front of the commission again. We have about a 6-month development plan refinement process that we're working on with Keystone Group. Phase 1, they are really focusing on the construction of a parking garage. We're looking at funding options for that garage, which we'll be bringing to you hopefully a month from now for your consideration. Studying that full-service hotel and conference center, mixed-use development opportunities, and then expansion of Indy 11 soccer operations headquarters. They are currently already located at Grand Park, but looking to bring a more substantial headquarter presence. And then also moving forward with Cardin Associates for further development of the southern portion of Grand Park. They have come to the table a little bit later than Keystone, so they're really in the due diligence phase, trying to understand better what this project looks like for them and what the phasing might look like. They do have the opportunity to continue developing what has already started along the eastern part of Grand Park Boulevard around the lake that is already built. So a determination of whether they call phase 1 the eastern portion of Grand Park Boulevard or they start working west of Grand Park Boulevard is still to be determined. And that was really what I had here to prepare for you guys for my executive session, but happy to answer questions about this or any other topics that you are interested in.
Okay, any questions from commission members for Janelle? Seeing none, we will move on to the next item on the agenda. We have no old business to conduct. New business, the first order of business is a public hearing on the 2025 bonds for the police headquarters and fire station 85. So Janelle, if you would pick up on that, please.
Absolutely. So I think maybe prior to the public hearing, if we could have Dennis Otten do a presentation for the RDC. I know many of you have already heard the presentation that was discussed just previous at the RDA meeting, but for those listeners who have just tuned in for RDC, I think it would be helpful to go over the nature of this and have some basis of what it is that we're having this hearing on here shortly. Thank you,
Thank you.
Dennis.
Thanks, Janelle, and thank you, commission members. Just for the record, again, my name's Dennis Otten. I'm with Bose McKinney & Evans. We're serving as bond counsel on this financing. This financing is for a new police station headquarters project in the city. These bonds will also finance what we call fire station number 85, which will be a new fire station in the project, or rather in the city. This is going to be a lease financing with the city's redevelopment authority. And pursuant to statute, any time that the Redevelopment Commission enters into this type of a lease, it's required to hold a public hearing before the commission considers the approval of the lease agreements. And so that's the nature of the hearing tonight. I'll talk a little bit about the financing here in the structure, and I know some of you have heard this before, but for the members of the public, as Janelle mentioned, we are using the Redevelopment Authority here as a financing tool. It will allow the city to have an amortization for this financing for a 25-year period. We will have, under the lease agreement, the fire station and the police station headquarters. And then temporarily during the construction period, we will have some roads leased under the project. Those will come in through the city. And so you'll see in these resolutions a reference to 2 different lease agreements. One of them is a lease agreement between the city and the Redevelopment Authority that improves what we'll call sort of the site assets, the roads, and the real estate for the police station and the fire station. And then the other lease agreement is the lease agreement between the Redevelopment Authority, which will lease the fire station and the police station when completed and the roads during the construction period to the Redevelopment Commission. And the lease rentals the Redevelopment Commission will pay will service these bonds. Reason we want to have the roads in there is it provides a leasable asset during the construction period. So if there's a delay in construction or something happens, we can continue to have the lease payments made. That helps with the ratings on the bonds and the ultimate payment of the bonds. From a security standpoint, the payment on these bonds is going to come from general revenues of the city. The council will be meeting on Monday to consider a resolution that will approve these forms of lease agreements. It will also approve in that resolution a pledge of general revenues from CP 66, or 266, which is a capital projects fund of the city. So while these lease rental payments will have a property tax levy behind them, it's never expected to be invoked. These general revenues will pay that. And you may say, well, why do we have the property tax levy in place? That helps to market the bonds. So that will help with the rating agencies to secure the best rating on these bonds, which means a lower interest rate and lower overall borrowing costs. It's the most efficient method, commonly used. I'm sure the city's used it before. So that's essentially it on the lease agreements. I'm happy to answer any questions, and we also have Oscar from Bondry here as well, who's acting as a municipal advisor. I can answer questions as well.
Okay.
I have a question, if that's okay. So over this 25-year period, as the bond is being paid, ultimately, who does the fire and police report to? Do they report to the RDA? Is the RDA the decision maker for the next 25 years on things that are going on and around this fire station and police station?
No, that is a good question. They will essentially operate as any police station and fire station would. The RDA is in place here as a financing vehicle. They hold the lease to the asset, but it can only be used for police and fire station purposes. But we wouldn't expect that the police department or fire department would come to the RDA for how it uses the assets on a day-to-day basis. Now, one thing that we couldn't have happen, for example, is we can't have the police department enter into a long-term lease agreement with a private corporation, for example, to use the facilities. That would be a breach of the lease, but otherwise, the police and fire department will have quiet enjoyment to these facilities, much as they would any others. Very similar to a building corporation structure.
And then once after the 25 years expires, the bonds are paid off, the RDA, is this lease rental agreement, it's complete and the RDA is no longer, involved, if you will?
That's right. So under the terms of these documents, when the bonds are defeased and paid off, the assets will come to either the Redevelopment Commission or its designee, or the city. So I would presume that these assets will be titled back into the city, into the city's inventory of assets.
But is there any document that would state that, or is that not critical at this point? I mean,
it is.
None of us are going to be, I shouldn't say this, but none of us are going to be around in 25 years. And should something be documented to say these assets fall back to the city or they fall to the RDC or whatever, right? Because
it's in the financing lease agreement. Yeah, there's a provision in there that talks about when the financing ends and how the assets are to be disposed of.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions from other commission members?
I have two questions. And first off, John, some of us will still be under 60 in 25 years.
My bad, sorry.
First question, just looking at the project exhibits, planning, design, construction, equipment, all that's included. Are we far enough and down the planning side and design side that we're comfortable with the 60 million and know that we'll be able to accomplish everything within that?
I mean, as far as I know, Oscar, did you want to maybe answer that better?
Thank you. For the record, Oscar Gutierrez, Bondry Consulting, municipal advisor to the Redevelopment Commission. It is my understanding that these projects are ready to go out to bid. The numbers are pretty firmed up, and 60 million is well above the amount needed. We just wanted to have a potential out should, for some unforeseeable reason, interest rates went up or just construction costs happen because of the volatility of the political environment currently. So the numbers are pretty firmed up, and based on how the legislature is moving forward, the mayor is going to potentially actually go the other way and begin cutting accordingly, because this is a 25-year financing that we had to do as 25 as opposed to 20 for cash flow reasons, because it's being paid out of an operational fund from the city. So it's part of the overall strategy where the city does levy appeals to get more operational dollars that come with additional local income taxes instead of doing property tax debt. So if those numbers continue to go up, there'll have to be cuts, not increases. But the numbers, to answer your question, Commissioner, they are fairly firmed up according to the two owners reps that the city hired.
Thank you. That answers my second question, too.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Oscar. Okay, any other questions? If not, we will open up the public hearing at 6:41 PM. Do we have anyone that wants to address the commission in regards to these two items? Okay, and I assume we don't have anything from an email, Janelle, so we will close the meeting, public hearing at 6:41. Then we go on to the actual vote for Resolution 05-2025 regarding the 2025 bonds for Police Headquarters and Fire Station 85 and approving the financing lease and the site lease. Any questions or comments from commission members? Okay, do I have a motion for approval?
Motion to approve.
Okay, motion by Larry Kemper for approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Brian Michael. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. David?
Joe Plinkus,
Aye.
John Dart,
Aye.
Brian Michael,
Aye.
Larry Kemper.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 4-0. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is Resolution 06-2025 regarding the 2025 bonds for the Police Headquarters and Fire Station 85 and approving the financing documents. Dennis, you're up again.
Thank you, Commission members. This resolution approves the forms of the bond financing documents that would be executed in connection with the issuance of the bonds by the Redevelopment Authority. And you may have seen in your packet separately those financing documents. We have a form of a trust indenture, we have a form of bond purchase agreement, and a form of continuing disclosure undertaking agreement. Some of those documents will be signed by the Redevelopment Authority. The undertaking agreement would be signed by the Redevelopment Commission. But for our purposes, our preference is a matter of practice. The Redevelopment Authority has already approved those. We always like to have the Redevelopment Commission approve those documents as well, so that you're seeing the full scope of the financing. So that's what they are. If there's any questions, and I'm happy to go into details about each one of those documents, I can assure you, if you've done other Redevelopment Authority financings, these documents are sort of part of, I'll call it the bond package, if you will.
Well written, Dennis, but way too long, so I have no questions on it.
I understand.
Any questions from commission members for Dennis in regards to that? Okay, seeing none, I'm open for a motion for approval of Resolution 06-2025.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion.
Okay, motion to approve by Brian Michael, second by Larry Kemper. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. David?
Joe Plinkus,
Aye.
John Dart,
Aye.
Brian Michael,
Aye.
Larry Kemper.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 4-0. Thank you very much. Commission members, next item is the 2025 budget TIF revenue updates. Oscar, it's all yours.
Thank you again. For the record, Oscar Gutierrez, Boundary Consulting. With me is Alex Stanley remotely. This document is going to look familiar to you. It's very similar to the document that we presented to you in the fall, which was the spending plan. We have made a couple of adjustments to that plan to make it a workable document as a budget. The differences that you'll notice between this and our spending plan is that we put beginning balances, so we had to wait for the clerk treasurer's office to close the books, and we provided beginning and ending balances. The other thing that we did is we actualized the tax rate. The tax rate for the 2025 TIFs were a little bit advantageous to our projections. So those would be the two main things that would be different, and we're seeking approval for this document. It also has a cash flow document that was requested from the commission in the past. So that's another portion of this that is for your submission for additional documentation. But all we're seeking here is approval for the updates that were made to the spending plan, which is not considered the 2025 budget. Did I leave anything out, Alex?
Okay.
That's everything.
John, go ahead. Did you have a question, John?
No, I did not.
Okay, I'm sorry. Any other questions for Oscar from commission members? No, you put a lot of work into it, Oscar. Greatly appreciate it.
Alex said, but I'll take the credit as always.
Very good. Okay, seeing no questions, I'm open for a motion for approval of the 2025 budget.
Motion to approve.
Larry Kemper, motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Brian Tamamichael. Thank you. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. David?
Joe Plankis,
Aye.
John Dart,
Aye.
Brian Tamamichael,
Aye.
Larry Kemper.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. Motion passes. Action item number 4 is Resolution 07-2025 regarding amendments to declaratory resolution, Grand Junction EDA, and creation of the Ambrose TIF allocation area. Janelle?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll do a brief introduction here, and then we have Dustin Meeks from Barnes & Thornburg to give you some additional context. As I mentioned in my executive director's report, we have 2 items that are being addressed within this single modification, this resolution, and one is the River District. So we have, let me move everybody's images over here. We have these bright yellow parcels that are highlighted on the map, which are within the limits of the River District that was approved by City Council adjacent to Grand Park. And in order for those parcels to be considered fully part of the River District, they need to also be within an established economic development area. So we've added all of the commercial properties that are within the city limits and also within the River District limits to this proposed Grand Junction EDA expansion to provide additional opportunity for economic development within those parcels. Additionally, and here's just a close-up showing some of those individual parcels for your benefit. Additionally, we have a new allocation area within Grand Junction that we are proposing for the Ambrose project, which I presented on previously this evening. And it's a handful of parcels here at E Street and State Road 32. This would be a single site allocation area which would allow for a bond to be issued for the developer to use for payment of all the expenses associated with their infrastructure improvements here on the site. So I'll let Dustin add anything that he feels is appropriate before there is a motion to vote on this.
I think Janelle did, explained all of the map stuff. The only other item that the resolution does, and this is where it gets weird, Janelle's left the weird for me. In 2008, the General Assembly, in their infinite wisdom, changed the law around the way that allocation areas are measured in terms of the length of their life. Okay. And the rules in 2008 were that if you created an allocation area, it went on for 30 years from the day that you created it. Then, In 2010, they changed the law again so that the way that allocation areas have their life measured is it's 25 years from the date that the first set of obligations that are payable from the revenue stream from that allocation area those obligations are issued. See, like I said, weird. And in doing that, they created a legislative twilight zone in between July 30th of 2008 and 2010. The city's Grand Junction allocation area was created in 2009 in that legislative twilight zone. And so the allocation area for the Grand Junction, or I'm sorry, the declaratory resolution for the Grand Junction area says what the law says should have been the rules in 2008, which were still the rules in 2009, and the rules changed after. And so as a part of making changes to the Grand Junction area, our housekeeping item is that we're making sure that the life of the area says that it's 25 years from the date that any obligations payable from the Grand Junction area would be issued, rather than the 30 years. Like I said, weird. It's just that this allocation area came into existence in the middle of legislative confusion, the General Assembly in their infinite wisdom. So,
Thank you, Dustin.
Okay, at least Rod Sterling didn't show up, we're fine. But anyway, okay, any other questions for our attorney or our Janelle on this item?
Quick one for Janelle.
Well, Janelle, are you going to share that proposed added area on the south side?
The proposed area on the south, did I go right past oh, there we go.
Well, right, yeah, so.
Yep,
help me
I
understand.
went right past this one.
Yeah, help me understand that, because where the cursor is the city city services building. Then you've got Newbie Park, the proposed Newbie Park, and then there's that yellow strip.
Yes.
What could possibly go there?
There could potentially be some commercial development that occurs in that parcel. More likely, commercial development would occur in this northern area. But again, our goal was to try to expand the economic development area to include potential commercial properties, non-residential properties, if you will, for the purposes of economic development area. So again, alignment with the Riverfront District and the economic development areas.
Well, does economic development EDAs include road construction? Because isn't that where that potential road was going to go, to extend Oak Road up to State Road 32?
I have been directed that Oak Road is not being extended, so I wouldn't contemplate that this is going to be a road parcel.
Okay. But who owns that property today? Those are just fields you're talking about, right?
Yes, they are currently wooded parcels.
In private ownership, or who owns those?
Those are privately owned, yes.
Okay.
Okay, is that anything else, John?
No, not for me.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from other commission
Janelle, can you
members?
go up one more screen? The north side of 191st there, is that
Yes.
on Grand Park Boulevard, and the north side of 191st, the very top?
Yes.
Yeah. Residential in the back, and then it's commercial in the front there?
The residential is a little bit further to the north here, and then this area could all be commercial or mixed use.
Okay, so the frontage will be commercial?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, good question. Okay, any other questions for Janelle? If not, I'm open for a motion for approval for Resolution 07-2025.
Motion to approve.
Okay, Larry Kemper, motion approved. I have a second.
Second.
Ryan Tomomichael, second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. David?
Joe Plankis,
Aye.
John Dart,
Aye.
Brian Tomomichael,
Aye.
Larry Kemper.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 4-0. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is Humden Partners Contract, BOT Management for ICE Facility. Janelle?
Thank you, Mr. President. And I believe we have Steve Hammerly on the call. Steve, I don't know who else, if there's anyone else on the call from Hunden, but I'll turn it over to you guys to do a presentation after just a brief introduction here. As you all know, Hunden Partners has been working alongside Hamilton County Tourism and City of Westfield to do various studies in and around Grand Park. And they also are very experienced across the country in assisting municipalities in selecting teams to help them with certain special projects. And as my team has never built an ice facility before, and one of the recommendations coming out of their report last year was to help balance out our tourism throughout the year by looking at the opportunity of developing an ice facility to handle tournaments, hockey tournaments throughout the winter, also provide opportunities for youth hockey classes, camps, tournaments. We would like to move forward with pursuing the opportunity of building a build, operate, transfer project here in the city of Westfield. One location that we have studied is the parcel in Grand Park down at the very south end, where you will see here shortly that we've test fit an ice facility. We also acknowledge that there are some other candidate sites around Grand Park that could be a potential home of an ice facility. And Hunden will do a brief presentation here to talk about what their process would be to lead us through the request for qualifications and request for proposal stages of this process. I did engage them previously to handle what we're calling tasks 1 through 3 of this proposal, which included some bridging documents of an ice facility and some market research, including interviews with some potential developers and operators of ice facilities. So we will be bringing an action item in front of you here shortly to authorize their professional services to lead us through the rest of that contract. So with that, I'm going to hand this over to whoever at Hunden would like to present here.
So Janelle, this is Steve. So just on the call as well is Rob Hunden and Ryan Sheridan. And I know Ryan was going to go through the presentation, but both Rob and I are available to answer questions as well.
Yep, happy
Thank
to get into it. Janelle, are you guys going to be driving the deck?
Yes, I can do that.
Okay, perfect. If you could just skip ahead to the first graphic and you can skip this slide. And okay, so yeah, Janelle, thank you so much for the setup with kind of the background of how this has evolved over time. So for everybody, as Janelle mentioned, we began work with Hamilton County Tourism back in 2022, looking at potential opportunities to help improve sports tourism throughout the county. And one of the things that we looked at was, of course, the success that Grand Park has brought Hamilton County and the city of Westfield. But really looking at the fact that there's a significant gap for quality, sizable ice facilities, not only in Hamilton County, but in the greater Indianapolis market. And understanding that this presents a significant opportunity, as Janelle mentioned, to balance out the tourism season when Grand Park experiences its lower, less utilized parts of the year. So as the project evolved with Hamilton County Tourism, we began to work with Janelle and her team on the Grand Park Master Plan study, roughly between November 2023 and June of 2024. And again, that was folded into our recommendations for looking at the feasibility of an ice facility to be placed within the district, mainly to bring another activity anchor to the district and drive consistent visitation to the city throughout the calendar year. So between about June of 2024 up until the end of 2024, we also stayed a part of the team with Perkins and Will and Spec Dempsey and trying to figure out what that master plan looks like. And as Janelle walked everybody through at the beginning of the presentation, as it stands right now, we've discussed potentially locating the ice facility in that district. We certainly think it makes a lot of sense from a critical massing standpoint and to really, as I said, bring another entertainment anchor to the district to help drive that 365 visitation. So, Janelle, if you would skip ahead for me, please. As a part of that analysis over time, we've looked at some comparable facilities across the country. wanted to bring to light just one in the Midwest, just to get a sense of scale of the potential visitation that these facilities bring. So a good example, located in just north of Columbus. This is a facility that has 3 sheets in one location. It's operated by the Columbus Blue Jackets NHL organization that operates a handful of rinks in the Columbus area. In 2023, it received about 700,000 visits, with about 12% of that visitation coming from over 100 miles away. So really has become a very notable tourism asset for the Columbus market, drawing from all the major Midwestern cities for regional tournaments. And you can skip ahead, Janelle, because it kind of goes hand in hand with what we're going to be talking about. So as Janelle mentioned, we have been engaged not only over the past couple months, but even previously in our work with Hamilton County Tourism, trying to understand what the feasibility is for an ice facility. And the graphic that you saw on the last slide goes hand in hand with a lot of what tournament operators such as USA Hockey and One Hockey have really told us, is that the Indianapolis market is severely undersupplied from a facility standpoint. It's made growth for organizations such as Indiana Youth Hockey very difficult. They've had to cap the registrations at some levels of their organization because there isn't enough ice time available, which is leading to people driving all over Indianapolis. And as I said, kind of capping out what that registration could be at those age groups. It's a group that's looking to grow, but is facing very difficult challenges in terms of getting that ice in the prime time that they need it to grow their organization. So over the past couple of years, really, we've been engaged with various local and regional stakeholders to try to understand what the demand would be for a facility like this. So as you can see, we've also had great conversations with the Indiana Sports Corp. Their main feedback is that, Indianapolis has such a great sports infrastructure, but downtown and the surrounding counties, there isn't a central flagship facility to be able to host major regional and national events. And they really see that there's an opportunity in the greater market for a facility like this. Bottom line from a lot of the tournament operators that we've talked to is the sentiment is, if Westfield doesn't do a project like this, the market is primed for another city to take hold of this opportunity for the overwhelming demand and the lack of supply that's in the market. So certainly a lot of positive signs, not only from local groups, but also regional and national organizations seeing a gap in the market for a facility like this. And go ahead, Janelle. As Janelle also mentioned, some of the past work, we work across the country with some of the major operating firms of facilities at the youth sports level, all the way up to professional sports stadiums and arenas. So we reached out to a lot of these groups to familiarize them with the potential concept of a facility in Westfield, trying to really raise awareness and interest in a potential RFP and RFQ. And I'll just say that with a lot of the groups that we talked to, nearly everyone that you see on the screen here, since we've had our initial conversations, it's been about once a month since these groups have reached back out wanting to get more information and know that when a potential RFP or RFQ would be released for their services, because they are all very high on the opportunity for ice in this market, which is a really positive indicator for us. So nothing but great feedback in terms of what a facility should look like, what makes a facility more efficient, and bottom line, a lot of interest from these groups that would be looking to partner with the city on operating a facility of this size. So as part of that first phase of the scope of work, we worked with Perkins and Will to come up with some project concept designs. So as you can see here, some renderings that they prepared with the site in mind, that we have been working with Perkins and Will and Spec Dempsey on that potential location within the master plan. So of course, these things are subject to change. These are just preliminary project concepts of what a potential facility could look like with the sizing that we've talked about. And that really brings me to an important point, is over time we've discussed, well, what does the size of this facility need to be? Well, from our experience across the country, in order to drive significant tourism business, we would recommend that there be a minimum of at least 3 sheets under one roof. So we have put forth a potential phased program, or really what's going to be open to the responses to the RFP, RFQ, of what a facility could look like, knowing that there should be a minimum of 3 sheets, but the potential for adding a 4th sheet, given what the market and what those proposals come back as. So again, Perkins and Will has put together these preliminary designs. You can get a better sense on the next slide too, Janelle, of the overall scale of what the project would look like. So have come up with some interior and exterior designs of that facility. And again, we've talked about potential phasing of the project, but from an overall layout, we've built in on this site what we would view as a phase 1 of 3 potential sheets with the ability to expand to 4 full-size sheets. And of course, again, we can answer any questions on that at the end, but hand in hand with those concept designs, we also asked them to put together some preliminary budgets. Again, these are subject to change, but wanted to get a starting point just to understand what the scale of the project would be. So we have discussed some different potential layouts. One of those was that one of the main rinks would also have an arena style setup with about 3,000 seats. So if you look at what the project would look like from a phase 1 perspective, with one of the sheets being an arena and then 2 ancillary rinks, they've ballparked the cost of that facility to be about $137 million. If you were to add the 4th sheet, it would add a cost of about $25 million to bring the grand total to about $162 million. Without that arena rink on one of the sheets, it would look at approximately reducing the cost by about $22.5 million, bringing the grand total to about $115 million. So I know that these are some pretty large numbers, but again, there's more of an explanation, can answer any comments or questions you have about how they came up with those numbers at this stage of the process. And I think the next is just the last slide to kind of give a sense of what that full scope of work would look like. So just as a reminder, to date, we have completed task 1 through 3 for the project, mainly raising awareness and speaking with those local, regional, and national stakeholders about what a potential project could look like, and then having Perkins and Will do those project program preliminary developments. So the next steps, what we would look to do in our next scope of work is really take all the feedback and all the conversations that we've had with those stakeholders, re-engage them, and build an in-depth financial model for what this project would look like, how it would operate, what it would spit out to the bottom line financially on a given year, so that we have a sense of how this would perform. And based on that performance, work with the team to put together a potential funding strategy for the project, and then work through writing and helping to respond to that RFP, RFQ that would be released to all of the interested parties, and then playing a supportive role to the city in understanding who's bringing the best deal to the table, how should they be scored, and how is this project ultimately going to be lifted off the ground with all the partners that are brought to the table. So Rob, Steve, I know I talked quite a bit. Please feel free to add anything that I missed, but if not, happy to take any questions or comments about some of the work that's been done to date.
If I can interject just for a minute here, if you are here for the Advisory Plan Commission meeting, that meeting is at City Services on 171st Street. So just if you're aware of that. Okay. We're running a little late because we have a lot of ED activity. Okay, go ahead, Janelle.
We're opening up for any questions that you have on the presentation, and I'm also happy to bring open the proposal itself if you'd prefer that I have that up on the screen.
I've got a few questions. So who from the Hunden team has experience beyond this project, has experience with ICE facilities? Is this the first analysis and study that you've done for a municipality on an ICE facility?
No.
Hey, this is, I mean, I can speak for all of us. This is Rob London. So I've had the firm for 19 years. We've done over 1,000 projects. We've probably done 3 to 4 dozen facilities that include ICE or are dedicated to ICE or are ICE arenas. About 80 to 90% of our client base is city or county, public sector. type groups. So this is not our first rodeo.
So the reason I ask is that the preliminary plans, call for $160 million for up to 4 sheets. Yet there's alternate plans that have been presented for about $80 million for 4 sheets. So I'm trying to understand the difference in cost. And I'm hoping that the Hunden Group, as well as the RDC, the city council, the city leaders are taking a hard look at this, because I don't think a $160 million ice facility is going to pencil out and pay for itself. And you can talk about all the experience that you have, but you got to get the right people in the room. And I'm not sure we have the right people in the room yet.
Yeah, well, I'll speak, and then I turned my camera off simply because I have a kind of a slow signal here down in Texas. But so I'll speak first and then turn it over to Steve. So our work as Hunden partners, we are assessing the performance and impact and on all those related things with the venue. What something costs becomes a function of quality and reality. So that is something that has been estimated by a whole variety of folks based on, various inputs and outputs. So what something costs is really going to be a function of how nice of a facility you want it to be, and who's doing those estimates. But there are people that are going to give you sort of a tilt-up building style budget, and then there are people that are going to give you something that's worthwhile of the city and that would last for several decades and something to be proud of. So again, it's not something that we all prefer things to cost less. So that just is a function of quality then and material. So Steve, do you want to comment to that?
Yeah, I'll just add to that. There's absolutely no question the facility could be done for less, but the task that we were charged with and that Perkins and Will did is they test fit the facility on the master plan site and was working to fulfill the sort of objectives and goals of the master plan. So there is retail space that was added here to help sort of fill out and help fulfill the visions of the master plan. The architecture reflects the city making an investment and putting a stake in the ground in the overall master plan that you all just developed. And that generally is what's driving things. So it's quality, shape of the site. And Rob's absolutely right. You could do a much cheaper facility if it was just a warehouse building on a square site. And so again, the goal here was to optimize what's in the master plan and to give a sense of what those costs would be. Again, an arena added, somewhere between $20 and $25 million to the project. These costs do represent, they're escalated. So Perkins and Will took these cost numbers from another facility that they're actively in the market working on right now, and included, design fees, soft costs, FF&E, and other project costs, as well as escalation. And there's a 10% contingency in this number as well, which is sort of appropriate at this level of design. So that's where the number came from. In the end, the facility will cost what it's going to cost, and the city can make whatever the appropriate judgment is as to how much money to spend on the facility and manage the end product accordingly.
And if I could add, John, to the answer on this, this is one site that could be proposed upon for a team to build this ice facility for the city. We're open to other locations that would be accessible along 191st Street or within the area surrounding Grand Park, all the way down to State Road 32. So there may be opportunities for a different style of facility in a different location that is cheaper to build and maybe does not have the same level of architectural standards. And as a city, as a redevelopment commission, we'll have to determine where our priorities are and, how do we make that decision? It may be more advantageous for us to have it located here directly within the district in order to spur other economic growth and also promote that walkability and support the businesses that are in that immediate mixed-use area. or we may determine that there's a better return on our investment by providing it a little bit further out on a more efficient site. So these will be answers that we have to work through as part of this process.
Janelle, how will the city council be involved in this process, or is this a decision through the RDC and through, for lack of a better term, a selection committee? Does the council get involved in this decision in any way?
The council would certainly be involved. As the fiscal body of the city, we would absolutely need to have the city council on board before a project like this could be approved. Additionally, as we work through this process, probably as we're looking into tasks 4 and 5, especially the creation of the request for qualifications, it's going to be imperative that we select the right selection committee that would provide a recommendation to the Redevelopment Commission for selection of a team. And I would expect and hope that we would have a member of City Council sitting on that committee to help advise throughout the process and be the voice for City Council. So that selection committee has not been determined yet, but definitely starting to think through some of the perspectives that we need to bring to the table in order to make the correct answers or make the correct decisions and recommendations.
Thank you. One last question for me for the Hunden team. Are there ice facilities where you've taken it from cradle, to, I mean, I was gonna say cradle to grave, but from the inception concept to actually completion? Are there projects that you can reference for me so I could just do a little study as well?
Yep. Rob, do you want to take that? He may have stepped away, but just so, I mean, I can speak to some that are more recent. The Champion Center up in Appleton, Wisconsin, as well as the McFetridge Ice Facility here in Chicago, where we're based. I'm also currently working on 3 other 3-sheet facilities, one in Ohio that, John, to answer your question, originally that project started at a $130 million budget. And after we ran through all the financial modeling, it turned out to be about an $80 million facility after some value engineering. Also working on a 3-sheet facility in Folsom, California right now, and an additional 3-sheet facility that is in, sorry, it's skipping my mind, in Florida. So certainly have a handful that are built and working on a lot currently.
I'm sorry, not to interrupt, the ones that are built though, the Champion Center in Appleton, Wisconsin, and what's the one in Chicago? I couldn't.
That's the McFetridge, yeah, and that's owned by the Chicago Parks District, literally across the street from where I used to live, and it's done great. And in fact, we recommended a smaller facility than they had originally envisioned. They wanted to expand by a full sheet. We suggested a studio sheet, and that has panned out super well for them. So it's been a big success. So, again, we definitely don't want to overbuild or underbuild. We're always trying to find that sweet spot. And frankly, based on the reality of how much things cost, probably 70% of things we study don't get built for 10 years because there's that sticker shock, and it's tough to get people over the hump. So you study a lot of things and a handful get built, and we haven't had anything underperform that's been built.
Okay, any other questions from commission members for either Janelle or the Hunden team?
Hey, Janelle, I know usually we would approve these and just move on. I guess my question, is like step 4 in this, to me, is very valuable information as we go through. Like, can we get somewhat of a report back after step 4 is done of just how does it look financially? Because I think there's a lot of questions, at least for me personally, around that piece.
Yes, we'll definitely have updates. And because this is a procurement process, this is something that we can also talk about as a commission within executive sessions, because there is a lot of information that we would not want to be sharing with the public related to the procurement itself.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, we're open for a motion for approval of the Hunden Partners contract.
Motion to approve.
Okay, motion to approve by Brian Tamamichael. I have a second.
Second.
Second, Larry Kemper. Okay. Motion on the table. David, please take the roll.
Joe Plinkus,
Aye.
John Dart,
Aye.
Brian Tamamichael,
Aye.
Larry Kemper.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Motion passes 4-0. Last item of business on the agenda is claims. I know you had some questions, John, and we put it down to the end here since we have now approved the contract. Any questions on claims or comments? Okay, hearing none, I'm open for a motion for approval of claims as presented.
Motion to approve.
Okay, I have a second.
Second.
Brian Tamamichael, second. Larry Kemper made the motion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. David?
Joe Plinkus,
Aye.
John Dart,
Aye.
Brian Tamamichael,
Aye.
Larry Kemper.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 4-0. Thank you very much. We have no other business. Just a reminder, we have our next meeting back on our Monday schedule, March 17th, and maybe we'll go out and have a green beer afterwards on St. Patty's Day. So if there are no further items, meeting is adjourned at 7:21.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, we'll ask commission members to stick around. David, you have paperwork for us to sign, I assume? Okay, let's do that. Let the Historical Society get on with their business. Sorry for the late meeting, but we got a lot going on, folks. Thank you.
So do we. We have people in from all